All right. So welcome aboard. My name is Jeremy. I am your subscriber relations representative today, and we are here to cover the SentriLock Essentials class. Now, you see, I do have the SentriLock website open, and we are going to go to that just a little bit. There's not a lot for you to do on there, and there's really not a lot of reason for you to go there. Really, everything that you need to operate these devices is on the app, and so that's what we're really going to focus on. So with that said, let me bring my phone screen over, and there we are. Now, on my screen, on my phone that you can see here on my screen, there are two apps for you to be aware of. The primary one is this one right here, the SentriKey RE app. If you haven't downloaded this to your phone, do so now. If you don't have your login information, we can get that for you. If you need your password, we can get that resent to you if you haven't logged into it. But the other one for you to be aware of is up here to the left of it is this one called SentriConnect. Now, this is not an app that you actually need to download. You have no reason to have this because you have this app, the SentriKey RE app. However, SentriConnect is what we recommend you have your the people that you regularly need to give access to your lockboxes. This is the most secure way to give them access to those non-subscribers. So whether it is for example, a WVMLS subscriber who doesn't belong to Armalist and doesn't have SentriLock access, you can give them access to the lockboxes using SentriConnect. If you have a painter that you need to get in, if you have a home stager, a photographer, or an appraiser, someone who is not an Armalist subscriber and doesn't have SentriKey access, SentriConnect is the best way to grant them access as the owner of the lockbox. I'm going to say this a few times through this class, and that is the owner of the lockbox or the listing agent, whatever the case may be, is the only person that may grant access to these lockboxes. These SentriConnect access may only be granted by the owner of the lockbox or the listing agent, depending on the case. Buyer's agents may not give out codes unless given permission by the listing agent. So as a buyer's agent, you are the one that needs to open that lockbox. You are the one that needs to be giving access to the property with permission. And we'll talk about that in a little bit because we're going to focus first on how you use these lockboxes as the listing agent, how you assign it to a property, and the different tools that you have available in the app. So now that I can stop scrolling through my phone screen and actually open the SentriKey app. And we're going to go right back to our home page of SentriConnect. This will be what comes up. This is the home page. Now, from a buyer's perspective, this is where for a buyer's agent, this is where you would come in and open the lockbox. But like I said, we're going to start with what you can do as the owner of a lockbox. And to do that, we're going to go up to the little menu stack up here in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to tap on that. And we have the list of our different activities that we can go to. And we're going to start out with this very top one, and that is My Lockboxes. This is where you can look at all the different things you can do with your lockboxes. And we're going to start out at the very top, and we're going to start with the Release Shackle button. And the reason I'm starting at the very top is we're going to pretend that we are at a property, and we are going to attach this lockbox to the property. Wow, it doesn't show up on my camera very well. There we go. You can see it right in front of my face. So I've got my lockbox in front of me, and if I'm at the property, I need to physically attach this lockbox to a property. I simply come up to the lockbox with my app, and I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to click on Release Shackle. And I'm going to press enter on the lockbox to wake it up. It's going to ask me for my security information. I think it's going to ask me for a face ID or face verification. And there's my face ID, and it's going to say, hold on to the bottom of the lockbox. And there's good reason for that. And that is, boom, the entire thing comes off. This is not like a padlock where only half of it comes off and it opens. The entire thing comes off. So if you weren't holding on to the bottom of this, you were only holding on to the top of it. This fell down. It maybe broke your toe. It maybe broke your client's favorite garden gnome. If you're attaching this to a floating home, maybe it's the bottom of the Willamette or the Columbia River. Whatever the case may be, hold on to this because the entire thing comes loose. Now, once it does that, you simply put the shackle back in, and it's connected. These things are near to indestructible. There's a great YouTube video that I highly recommend that shows a guy trying to break into exactly one of these lock boxes, and he uses a sledgehammer and a crowbar. And like, I mean, it gets a little bit silly at one point, but it's a really good video showing how sturdy these lock boxes are. All right, the shackle's been released, and we are back to this page. Now, once we've attached it physically to the property, we have two options. We can assign it to a property, or we can leave it unassigned. And the great thing about this is we don't have to be physically present to the lockbox in order to assign it to a property. We can simply leave it unassigned. If we just want to attach it to the, physically attach it to the property, maybe it's not an active listing yet, we don't have to do that. However, it can be nice if you're physically attaching it to a property. We can go to assign to property, and it's going to bring up our active listings. It is only going to bring up our active listings. It's not going to bring up any in-progress listings. It is only going to bring up our active listings. It's not going to bring up CSN listings because no one should be going into the listing, but it will bring up our active listings. So if we have an active listing that we're assigning this to, we can do that. Or if we don't have an actual property that's ready, it's not listed yet, we're just putting this on there in preparation for activating it, we can go back down here to the very bottom and click on Can't Find Property. And we can type in a property address. And we could say 115. So we could just assign this to an address if we wanted to, and it will show that this lockbox is assigned just to this address. If the system will also, for up to 10 days, search for an active listing that matches this address. So if we assign it to this address and then we enter a listing in, it will look for that listing and it will assign it to that listing. But again, we don't have to be physically present to the lockbox in order to assign it. We could, again, attach it physically, leave, go assign our, finish our listing, enter our listing in, and assign it remotely using the app. You don't have to be physically present to do so. Let's cancel out of this, and let's actually put it to my listing. And we're going to go to our Alderwood listing, and we just click on Assign to Property. And it's going to ask us what region we are in. This is very important if you are an agent who is licensed in both Washington and Oregon. These are region dependent. If it is assigned to the Oregon region, if a Washington agent who is not dual licensed tries to access this, they won't be able to. So if this is in Washington and an Oregon license who is not dual licensed, they won't be able to access to it. So what happens frequently is someone puts this on if they have a listing in Washington, this is assigned to a Washington address. The listing ends, they put it to an Oregon property and people can't get into it. So make sure that when you're assigning it to the listing that you choose the correct region. And whether it's Oregon or Washington, it's just going to depend on this region. So if it was Oregon, I would just choose Portland. If this was Washington, I would simply choose Vancouver. Either one will work, but we list all these in here. So I'm going to leave it in my Portland. And it's going to say, do we want to assign it to a listing? Yes, we do. And success. We've successfully assigned it to our listing. It's there. People can access it. Subscribers can access it. It's that easy. But now we can adjust more settings with this. So these are the showing instructions that if there were any showing instructions entered into the listing from MLS, they would be provided right here at the very top. So once we connect it to our active listing, the showing instructions will show up here. And then there's some other options that we can add. These are specific to SentriLock. So we can add these different standard instructions. So if we want people to knock first, if we want them to remove their shoes, all that kind of stuff, or any additional information. So this is a free type field, so we can put whatever we want in here. So, appointment required. Don't let cat out. Whatever you want to, and this will pop up when a buyer's agent opens this lockbox. We can also, if there is an alarm at the property, we can include the instructions for turning off the alarm if we want to include that here as well as in the listing. And once we put on any standard instructions, we can click next. And this is another benefit of SentriConnect is that you can add homeowner notifications or tenant notifications. It doesn't have to be the homeowner. We want to receive a notification that A, this lockbox has been opened, and then B, when the showing ends, when the lockbox is closed. And I'll talk about that when we talk about how to open the lockbox. So this is where we can set up notifications for someone, again, we want to receive notifications that the lockbox has both been opened and closed. Once we do that, we could click done, and it's going to say success. We're done. We've assigned it. We're all set. But I mentioned you can assign these remotely. So how do you do that? Let's just really quickly do this. I'm going to go into my lockboxes. I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to unassign it to that property. There, it's unassigned. So let's say let's go back in time a little bit. Let's say I've physically attached this to the property, and I click that leave unassigned button, and it's just sitting on the property. I can now leave. I don't have to be physically present. So my lockbox is over there. It's miles and miles away from me. I simply come back to my app, and I go to click on assign unassigned a property. I go to my lockboxes. Notice I've got some shared lockboxes. That's what I'm going to show you on the website. I'm going to go to my lockboxes though, and I need to remember my security or the serial number on this one, 530. It's not assigned, and I'm going to click my listing, and I'm going to assign it to my property and go through those exact same steps. So you can see it's just that easy. Like you said, you don't need to be physically present to assign it to the property. It connects via the app. The next time someone opens this lockbox, it will finish that assignment. All right. So that was assigning it to the property. That was setting up those notifications. Next one we have is the different kinds of codes. As the owner of the lockbox or the listing agent, again, you don't have to be the owner of the lockbox to do this, but the listing agent is the only person that can grant access to these lockboxes. And there are 3 different ways that you can do that. And I'm going to focus on the first one. And again, this is the most secure way of granting access to these lockboxes. And that is using this right here, the SentriConnect access. In order to do this, we simply click on Grant SentriConnect Access. It's going to ask us which of our lockboxes we want to grant access to. I'm going to take the one that, and you can see that it's assigned to that property. And it's going to ask me for the SentriConnect user that I want to give this access to. This is why this is so secure, is that it's going to a SentriConnect user. So if the person that I'm giving this access to is not registered with SentriConnect, they'll receive an email saying, you've been granted access to this property using SentriConnect. Please download the app and set up your profile. It's very easy to do. It's free. It doesn't cost them anything. All they need to do is enter their email and their name and a phone number, and that sets them up for SentriConnect. If they are already a SentriConnect user, they'll receive an email. They'll also receive a push notification through SentriConnect that they've been granted access to this lockbox. So let me give my usual email in there. This is the other great thing about SentriConnect is this access can be as long or as short as we want. So we can start it Friday at 10:30, and we could end it at 11. So it can be as short as half an hour, and that person using SentriConnect and their Bluetooth device can open this lockbox just like you do, just like a SentriKey user does. But here's the other thing. We can start it at 10:30 today, or we could go further out into the future. We can go up to 2 weeks out, granting SentriConnect access. And that person, so for example, maybe it's our painter, they can get in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out as often as they need to using their Bluetooth device. They don't need to use multiple codes in order to get in and out of these lockboxes. The other benefit of granting SentriConnect access is when you grant that access, you'll see in your access logs that SentriConnect user is the one who opened the lockbox. If you grant a one-day code or a contractor code, all you're going to see is that code was used, not who used it. Those codes, if you give out an access code, a one-day code or a contractor's code, whoever has that code can give it to whoever they want. That code, once it's out there, it's out there. SentriConnect can't be forwarded. They can't give this access. They would have to give their phone to somebody else physically in order to give them access to that lockbox. And of course, you're going to see in the access logs exactly who used it, which SentriConnect user accessed the lockbox and when. Again, this is the most secure way because this is also the only one that's revocable. So once I click done, I've granted access to my painter, let's say. And now let's say they've gone in, they've done the painting job, they've gone in and out, in and out, in and out, they've accessed the lockbox, they're done. It didn't take them a full 2 weeks, it only took them a couple of days. So we want to make sure that our SentriConnect is as secure as possible. So now what we do is we go back to our homepage and you see right down on the bottom here, we've got our little envelope with the one icon. That's because I just granted SentriConnect access and it's telling me that I did that. So when I click on the envelope, I see that I granted access to SentriConnect. And what I can do now, once they're done, I can now revoke the access. So when I click revoke, they will no longer be able to use their Bluetooth device to access that lockbox. They're done. They can't get in anymore. We won't see their access anymore. So again, just another example of why this is the most secure way of granting access to non-SentriLock subscribers using, again, SentriConnect. And let's go back to my lockboxes. That's SentriConnect access. Again, it's surprising how few agents use it, how many still rely on these access codes or these contractor codes. But please, 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 if you're a new subscriber, you're new to RMLS, get in the habit of this. If you have those people who need access regularly, make them download this. They're part of your team. It makes their lives easier. They don't need to get a code because here's the deal. These access codes, we can do this. I'm going to show you how to do it so you know how to do it. If we want to grant just simply an access code, we go to our lockboxes, grant access code, choose which property or which lockbox we want to grant access to. Now, this is a new thing. It is going to ask us for who we're doing, but again, doesn't mean anything. We're just giving them a code. So we're going to name this to Bob, and it's valid on this day. So it is good for this day. It is a one-day code. So we need to choose which day this code is good for. And we're going to get that code. And there it is. Now notice we've got the share icon. So this is how we can give out this code. We've got the big long code. We can tap on this and we can share it to whoever we need to share it to via text message or whatever messaging we've got on our phone. We can email it however we need to send it out. But again, we're sending out this code. There's nothing to prevent them other than their own good behavior of sharing this code with somebody else. And once this code is out there, it's out there. It's not revocable. And again, we're only going to see that this code was used, not who used it. Now, because we put a name on there, we have a guess that Bob is the one that we gave this code to. But again, we're not going to know who actually used it. The other kind of downside about these codes is they expire after an hour. So once this code is used, it will no longer work after an hour. So this code is valid on Saturday, August 6th. When my painter, Bob, goes in and uses this code, once he's entered this code in the lockbox, if he's gone out, if an hour and a half goes by, it's no longer going to work. So if he needs to get access again, he's going to need to call me and get another code from me. So there are some downfalls to it in that respect as well. But again, SentriConnect is the best way to do this. But we have that option. We also have the option of activating contractor mode. Contractor mode, you do have to be physically present to the lockbox in order to activate it. If you want to activate contractor mode, you simply go to your lockbox, press enter on contractor mode, press enter on the lockbox. And it's going to ask us for our security. Enable contractor mode. Yep. Success. Contractor mode has been enabled. So now what do we do with that? Well, we need to get codes for it. So we want to go to our contractor mode. Whoops. I'm too close to my lockbox. So we're going to cancel out of that. Down at the bottom, view contractor codes. And the lockbox we want to get the codes for. These codes live inside this lockbox. They change. They do not change. They stay the same. On the website, we can go in and change them. We do have that ability. However, most people don't remember to do that. So these codes, the important thing to remember, if you enable contractor mode and you use these codes, is that these codes, these 3 codes, will live with this lockbox, and they will go from property to property to property. So if we granted someone access to a house where this lockbox is, they will also have access regardless of wherever this lockbox is, as long as contractor code is enabled. And again, notice there's no share icon here. We can't email this. We can't text it from our phone. We need to write it down or somehow physically give it to whoever we want to grant access to. And again, just like with the one-day codes, we're not going to know actually who used it. We're just going to know that this code was used. Who used it? We don't know. Was it our contractor that we gave it to? Was it their subcontractor? Was it their subcontractor's subcontractor? Was it their subcontractor's assistant? Who knows? We're just going to know that this code was used, not who used it. Again, you have full authority to use one-day codes or contractor codes. However, SentriConnect is the most secure way. But now that you see, that's how you use the contractor code. That's how you enable it. We're going to go back to our menu here, and we're going to take a look at some of these other options we have available to us. Now, as we are in My Lockboxes, we do see down here, we talked about the release shackle, unassigned to property, grant SentriConnect access, getting an access code. We can ignore schedule appointment. We don't have that service as part of our package at ArmLS, so there's no reason to use this one. However, right below that, we have our property access settings. So you saw when I assigned this property to a listing, I set up those notifications, those settings. We can come in here and edit these. And again, just like a lot of the things on here, we don't need to be physically present to the lockbox in order to change these settings. So we just click on the lockbox that we want to change the settings on and make whatever changes we need to make. So, maybe we no longer need an appointment, the property, whatever the case may be, whatever change we need to make. We come in, make that change. Maybe we need to change the homeowner that's being notified. Maybe we want to set this up for our assistant to be notified, whatever the case may be. We just come in here, make that change, click done. It's taken care of. Again, you don't have to be physically present to the lockbox to make that change. Next, we have our call before showing mode. This is something that, again, like contractor mode, you need to be physically present to the lockbox in order to activate on it, because this is a setting in the lockbox itself, in the programming of the lockbox. This is an additional layer of security that you can enable if you want to. With call before showing mode, again, you need to be physically present. And if I wanted to activate that, just like contractor mode, I would just press enter, we would activate it, we're done. Once it's activated, we need to provide a call before showing code to anyone that is going to show this property. And we'll talk about how you get access to opening the lockbox, because otherwise, anyone who's a SentriConnect user has access to this lockbox, unless we activate call before showing mode. With call before showing mode, if someone schedules a showing with us, we need to come to our SentriConnect, to our app, come down here to our call before showing, and click on Get Call Before Showing Code. Then we want to select the lockbox that we need to get the code for and the date that we need to get the code for as well. So we would select that date. And here's our code. So if we activate call before showing code or call before showing mode, we simply need to get this code and provide it to the agents who are going to show the property on that day. Then what they'll do, they'll still need to use their Bluetooth device to open the lockbox. However, it's going to take them on to another security step. When they go to activate to open the lockbox and press enter, it's going to ask them for this code. If they don't enter this code, they won't be able to get in. So again, this is just another layer of security that you can add on if you want to ensure that only people that you have approved to open this lockbox are gaining access to it. So if you have a very, unique property or someone who just doesn't, wants to make sure that only approved showings are coming into the property, this is a nice tool to activate on your lockbox. Again, making sure that if you do activate this, you're providing this code to those agents. Otherwise, you're going to get some upset phone calls from people saying, I can't get in. What's going on? Help. And again, this code is going to change from day to day, but this is the one code for that entire day. So on this day of Saturday, August 6th, this is the code that I would give to everybody that I've approved showing for on that day. And you'll notice we've got the easier share button with this, so we can text that easily to those agents. We're going to go ahead and back out of that. And take or remove ownership. If you are selling a lockbox or giving a lockbox away, you're retired, whatever the case may be, you would use this to take or remove ownership of the lockbox. Just like everything else, you would simply choose the lockbox that you want to remove ownership on, press enter on the keypad to wake it up and wake it up. To take ownership of a lockbox, if you're buying a lockbox or receiving a lockbox from an agent who's retiring or whatever the case may be, you simply do the same thing, take or remove ownership, press enter on the lockbox, and it will transfer it to your name. So it's pretty easy to do, but I'm going to show you if you're part of a team, this is a way that you can borrow lockboxes from each other. You basically give it to another agent. But I'm going to show you an easier way to work with lockboxes as part of a team. And finally, we have update firmware. Now, if this is a brand new lockbox that you just got, there's no reason to do this. The firmware is up to date. However, we do recommend that maybe once a year you go in and update the firmware to make sure the lockbox works accurately. We often find that if there's an issue with a lockbox not working, updating the firmware takes care of it. We're going to go back just a little bit, and we're going to look down here. Again, my listings, that's just going to bring up our listings. My schedule, that's not going to bring up anything because we don't use that. However, here's our access logs. This is where you can go, pick the lockbox that you want to view the access on. And I don't have any lockboxes showing up. Any lockboxes that you own will show up here because no one's opened this lockbox in ages because I haven't used it in ages. But anyway, if your active lockboxes will show up here and you can see who's used them. You'll see whether it's a SentriConnect user that accessed it, whether it's a listing agent, so a SentriLock subscriber that's opened the lockbox. You'll see who opened it, when, whether it was an access code, what time it was opened, whatever the case may be. And here's also where you can update your personal settings for your lockbox for Sentry for the app. And if you want to enable Face ID like I have activated, you can do that. You can turn on agent safety if you want. What this will do, again, this is an additional layer of security if you want to use it. And this is most useful for a buyer's agent. With the agent safety, if you turn that on, you will need to enter in a contact information, a contact person, their name and their phone number. Once you do that, when you open a lockbox, it's going to say that you have agent safety on. If you want to continue, and you'll say yes. And it's going to I believe it's every 4 minutes, it's going to send you an alert through the app saying Sentry or agent safety is on. Click yes, and you'll have to click that. If you miss 2 of those notifications, it's going to send a text message to the person that you put in, to your contact person, saying this person is at this address and has failed to respond to the agent safety alerts. That's it. So just an important thing to remember is that this is not sending this to the authorities. This is not calling 911. This is not calling the police. It is just sending a notification to the person that you set up as your contact information. What they do with it is up to them. Another thing to remember with agent safety, just a little bit warning, if you use this, if you have this turned on and you are in an area where you don't have cellular reception, this will not send out any alerts until you have reception again. So just if you're showing properties out in the woods somewhere, this might not be your best option for security. All right, we're going to go ahead and back out of that. And that's everything with the listing agent side of things. So again, it's easy to use. The app works really beautifully. From a buyer's agent, it's even easier. As a buyer's agent to open these lockboxes, all you need to do is, before you go on your showing tour, we recommend opening the app. Just like this, open the app and close it out. Let it open, let it close, that's it. And the reason for that is by opening the app, it connects to the SentriLock SentriKey system, and it refreshes the list of available lockboxes. And the reason for this, the reason that you want to open this before you go out on a showing tour, is if you are in an area of limited reception, or maybe you're low on data and you don't want to use data, you open this while you have good Wi-Fi, whatever the case may be, you'll be able to open those lockboxes. If you don't, and this lockbox was just added into the system after you've most recently opened this, and you're in an area where you don't have coverage, you won't be able to open this lockbox because it's not recognized in the system. Again, these lockboxes don't work on any kind of Wi-Fi or internet capability whatsoever. They are simply Bluetooth power. They work exclusively with Bluetooth connectivity. So after you go in, open the property, and after you have your approved showing, that's another word of warning with these lockboxes. These lockboxes make your lives as buyers agents super, super easy. However, make sure you are following the instructions, the showing instructions to the letter. Misuse of a lockbox device is a common violation, and a misuse of lockbox device can earn a fine of up to, I'm not going to say it's going to be this much, but it's up to $15,000. So again, make sure you are using these devices correctly. As a buyer's agent, remember, you need to be physically present to open these lockboxes to get your clients into the home. You may not give your clients a code unless the listing agent has approved that. If you've been given permission by the listing agent to give somebody else a code, you may do so, but you may not generate a code or give access to someone without being physically present to them. You also need to make sure that you are opening these lockboxes when you're supposed to. If the showing instructions say that a showing is required or appointment is required and you need approval of that appointment, you need to wait until that appointment is approved before you open these lockboxes. If you don't, if your appointment has been declined or for whatever reason rescheduled or not approved, and you open this lockbox, that listing agent can report that as a violation. Another important thing to remember as a buyer's agent is when you have an accepted offer on a property, the property is in pending status, you still need to get approval to open these lockboxes and enter that property. Just because you have an accepted offer does not give you carte blanche to just open this lockbox whenever you want. That house is still owned by someone else. Your client doesn't own it yet. You don't have full authority to open it. So even when it's in pending status, you need to get approval from the listing agent to open this lockbox. Because this is how easy it is. You go to your lockbox, you press enter on the lockbox. It's going to ask you for your security. And in my case, it's the Face ID. And you're going to hear the engine go, and it opens, and there should be the key. Now, if you come in here and notice that the key is not in there, it's not in this compartment, you would click on key missing. And what that's going to do is send a notification to the listing agent that the key is missing. This is also where we remind you as a buyer's agent to make sure that you put the key back. Make sure you remember to replace the key. The best time to do that is whenever you want. Just make sure you make a habit of it. Put the key back at the same time every time. Some agents like to keep the key with them while they're showing the property. Some agents like to put it back right away. Whatever the case may be, make sure you make it a habit and put the key back at the same time every time, because if the next agent comes to show this property and finds the key is missing and presses this button and probably calls the listing agent, you don't want to be the person who's 15 miles away and goes, oh, it's in my pocket, or, oh, I left it on the kitchen counter. Do I need to pay for a locksmith? So make sure you put the key back the same time every time, because the next thing that you have to do is, now one of the benefits of this is you've heard the little motor close. Once that motor activates again, a lot of agents do like to close it so it's not just open to the elements. Once you open the key, we're going to click continue. It's going to bring up the showing information about this property that the listing agent entered. So again, these are going to be those showing instructions that come directly from the listing. And any of the standard instructions that were there, don't let the cat out, is there. We have our RPR integration, so we could open the RPR record about this property. And we have our listing agent's information. Now, don't close out of the app. Once you open this lockbox, close the lockbox if you want, because what you want to do when you're done showing the property, notice the little icon right up here. When you are done showing the property, get in the habit of clicking on the stopwatch, because it's going to say, please confirm that you're ready to end the showing. And we're going to say, yes, we're ready to end our showing. And here's a nice reminder, because this was such a frequent occurrence. Do you need to return the key? Oh, yes, I do. I need to return that key. So it's going to take us back to the lockbox to press enter. I think we're still connected. Nope. We're going to press enter. And it's going to ask us our security. And there's the motor. It opens the lockbox. Great. Please confirm we're ready. We're done. The lockbox's motor's shut. We close the door. We're done. And the reason we recommend using that stopwatch, the reason it's there is two things. One, it reminds us to return the key if we need to, and it makes it easy for us to do that. Secondly, if the listing agent, as I have, set up the homeowner notifications, they're now going to receive the notification that the showing has ended. If we don't manually end the showing by clicking on the stopwatch, it will automatically end the showing for us after an hour and send that notification. So it's just a nice courtesy to the owner of the property of letting them know that the showing is over, that you've ended the showing. It's safe for them to return if that's the case. So just a word of advice, get in the habit of using that icon to manually end the showing, because it does that two things. It reminds you to return the key and sends the notification to the homeowner that the showing has ended. And that is really everything for the buyer's agent. You open the lockbox and that's it. That's all we're going to do. Another word of advice, before I move on to the website, is this is something that we've gotten reported to us a number of times recently. And we even put little flyers out when someone comes in to buy a new lockbox. And that is, don't attach these to a gas meter. If you attach this to a gas meter and something about this lockbox fails, it is a mechanism. They do fail occasionally. There are times when things happen. If something fails and the shackle is not able to release, a locksmith will not cut it off if it's attached to a gas meter, because they use a torch to cut this off. So it's going to be stuck there. You need to use a bolt cutters, like a big bolt cutters. We have them at the office. If it ever happens, they're huge. They're these giant bolt cutters that it takes to take these off. So don't put them on a gas meter. Put them in a secure location. Another thing about these lock boxes before we move on to the website is you can purchase these at any Armalus office, whether it's Portland, Vancouver, Eugene, Salem, Coos Bay, wherever the case may be. You can buy them from any of us. They're $125 brand new. We also sell used lock boxes for $95. You'll want to call ahead, especially for used lock boxes, to make sure we have them. We don't always have them in stock. We don't always have people selling us their lock boxes. Used lock boxes are just as good as the new ones. We only buy lock boxes that are in good condition. We change the batteries. We update the firmware so we know they're running. Another thing about these lock boxes before we move into the website is, and mine is a flawed one. If you have a lockbox that you've gotten from another agent, maybe it's a retired agent who sold or gifted you a lockbox, and you get a notification that the battery is low. The battery compartment is inside this. You need to open the lockbox to change the batteries. And batteries are free at any Armalus office. They are part of your warranty on these lock boxes. Word of warning is, if you put a battery in here that is not the Panasonic, that's not the preferred battery, it voids the warranty on these. So again, they're free at any Armalus office. Come in and get them. We also have battery packs. We have batteries. We also have these packs. These are emergency battery power packs. If the battery on a lockbox completely dies, it's dead. You press enter, nothing happens. These battery kits are available at any office for $15, and you simply plug it in. Mine doesn't have it because mine is actually a flawed lockbox. There's a port on the side that you pop open the little button and plug it in, and it powers it for you. Doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it can be not fun. So just know that you have access to these through any Armalus office. All right. And let's move over really quickly. I'm going to end my screen share because we're done with the app part of it. And let's get over to the website, SentriKey website. So your login to SentriKey is the same as on the app. It's the exact same login. And you're not going to see this. You're only going to have the option down here as the agent. I have access to a whole lot of other stuff. I have superpowers at RMLS. You're only going to see this option, the agent option, and it's going to log you in. And let me move my window there. There we go. All right. So when you come into SentriKey, they are in the process of redesigning their website. And when you go over here to manage my account, it's going to bring you to the redesigned version of the website. And this is what you'll see. It makes it a lot easier than the previous version, which was a little difficult to do. Now, once I get into my profile settings, I can adjust my phone number if I need to, my email address if I need to, whatever the case may be. But the other thing that's on here is when I go down to account settings, we can change our password, change our PIN if we need to. We can see our device history registration. But also, the main thing that I want to show you on here is team members. This is where you go to set up a team, where you can go to add members to your team. Now, these people need to be SentriKey subscribers. So all you do is simply add a team member. You search by their name, and it's going to send them an invitation to be added to your team. They need to approve it. You can't just add people willy-nilly to your team. But the great thing about creating a team like this is you all have access to each other's lockboxes. You saw when I was in the app that I had my lockboxes as well as my team's lockboxes. This makes it really easy for you to work as a team and access others, your teammates' lockboxes. And it's just very easy. Like I said, you come in here to your account settings, and add a team member. Very, very easy. Next, we have our lockbox settings. This is where we can come in and make some, either view or make some changes to our lockboxes. I only have the one lockbox that I own, but this is where we can come in. If we want to change our call before showing code, we can do that. If we want to allow homeowner do not disturb codes, we can do that. But this is mainly where I want to show you that you can change the contractor codes. If you ever come in here and need to change those, this is where you can come in and make those changes. This is also where you can get an emergency shackle release code, is by going here to your lockboxes. And that's about it. That's about it for the website. There's not a lot to show you on that. If you ever run into problems with these lockboxes or using the app, you can call SentriLock. You can also call RMLS. We are well versed in using these lockboxes and using the website. One thing to remember, your device history, access to these lockboxes is for the subscriber only. It is only for your use. And it limits the amount of devices that you can log into using this, because they want to avoid people sharing this login with people they shouldn't, such as unlicensed assistants. You don't want them using this. They need to have their own access, and they can be part of your team. So if you've logged in on multiple devices, maybe you've had to buy multiple phones and you've run out of device, you'll get an error on the app saying you have run out of registrations. Please contact support. Simply call us. We can update, increase those access or those device registrations, and you'll be able to get access. Like I said, any issues, please call us. We're happy to help. And like I said, this class doesn't generally take a full hour, and we're at 45 minutes. And that is everything I have to share with you on SentriConnect or SentriKey. Like I said, these are really easy to use, but if you're a new subscriber and you're not used it, it can be a little bit overwhelming with all the stuff that you're learning. Just know that they're really very easy to use. Make sure you're following the showing instructions. That's my biggest word of advice with these. We also have a lot of new agents that will do a practice showing the first time, so that they're not trying to open a lockbox in front of a client and getting embarrassed because they're sweating and they're fumbling and their fingers are sweaty. You can very easily do that. Schedule a preview for a listing and open the lockbox and get some practice before you do it in front of a client. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. I think some of you are signed up for our showing time class this afternoon. Also a great tool that's involved. Also a class that never takes a full hour. Showing time is really very straightforward. So if you're signed up for that, we'll see you at 1:30. If not, I hope to see you at another class. Have a great afternoon.